you gotta do is just speak. One word is enough, and I'm no longer so rough. I forget what I was trying to say. I no longer do what I was gonna do, but you're no good for me. That's why me know what set me if it could flee. Me have to take away myself. Me have to take away myself. Me have to hide like a thief in the night. Me have to get out of sight. Me have to take away myself. I have to take away myself. I have to utilize my wings. Show the eye clean berries. I said, yeah, I find you very hard to resist. But this relationship I'm gonna desist. But how can I face you when all I wanna do is just taste you? I know you think I play me, I play, but soon you're gonna see the light of day. Just relax, don't move an inch. I'll be gone in a pinch. May I feel take away myself. May I feel take away myself. May I feel hide like a thief in the night. May I forget out of sight. May I feel take away myself. Take away myself. I have to utilize I wings. Show the eye a clean berries. I said, yeah. Been there, done that, don't need it again, yeah. I'm not the master, guess who won't play your game, yeah. To all you move, you off me way to the core. Sayonara.
Greetings, kings and queens. Welcome to another Real Stuff podcast. Today we have a very special guest, none other than Miss Cynthia Ellis-Topsey. This is yours truly, Franco, and I got with me this morning none other than Flavius. Morning, Flavius.
Morning, Franco. Morning, listeners.
Mm-hmm.
Look at hours past, and I am seeing sunshine outside.
You're seeing it?
Yeah,
Or you've been outside and you see it? Or you looking
yeah,
through
but
the
I've been out.
window? Oh, okay.
No, man, I put some clothes on the line to dry, man.
Well, sun is shining, the weather is good.
Oh, yes, yes. And I hope all of you out there are good also.
True. So what's happening down in your neck of the woods this morning?
Well, the old cry of little or no internet. Everybody's complaining. We had some road problem because of the storm. Got some roads washed away. Embankment came down. St. Thomas, St. Mary. Yeah, those are the two parishes I heard about. Where we drive to Kingston, that newly fixed road was completely destroyed. At least one section of it. It was with one, in one section close to where I am. But they patch it up and say they are working on a permanent fix. But I don't know about that. Because they said they spent 600 million. And of course, all the work they did in Kingston wasn't complete. No drainage. So the roads now are like a river or a sea. Marcus Garvey, the water, it's coming up to the car's bag, window. So we are in deep trouble. Seriously deep trouble, my friend. So we're gonna move on to Did You Know?
Yeah, man. Anytime you're ready.
What are we looking at this morning? The ladies have been finished?
Now we have one more left. Actually, we have two ladies left. We're going to do one
great.
this morning because theirs is really a long
Yeah?
resume. Yes, a long resume.
No problem. No problem. Okay, let me continue our journey with our great ladies, and we have one coming to speak to us this morning, and we'll tell you about this one now. So, go ahead.
Okay.
The Honourable Maya Motley, QC, MP. Prime Minister of Barbados. Maya Motley has lived a public life of firsts, first female leader of the Barbados Labour Party, and the opposition, first female Attorney General, a post she held for 5 years, and youngest ever Queen's Counsel in Barbados. On the 25th of May 2018, Motley becomes the 8th Prime Minister of Barbados, and the first woman to hold the post. Early life and education. Maya Motley was born on the 1st of October 1965 in Barbados. Educated at Merivale Private School, Barbados, the United Nations International School in New York, and Queen's College, Barbados, Motley subsequently obtained a law degree from the London School of Economics. By 1986, Motley was finalising her training as an attorney and received a law degree from the London School of Economics, Houghton Street, London, England. She is a lawyer by profession, having been called to the Bar of England and Wales and in Barbados. She was admitted to practice in Barbados in 1987. Motley is also admitted to practice in St. Kitts and Nevis, St. Vincent and the Grenadines and Dominica. Motley has been much influenced by her family. She is the granddaughter of Ernest Dayton Motley, 1907-1973, a real estate broker and successful politician, particularly at the parish level. He was the first mayor of Bridgetown, 1959, who had represented Bridgetown in the House of Assembly from 1946, and who belonged to the Conservative Party, and helped the poor. He was granted the Ordinary Commanders of the Civil Division for Public Services in Barbados in June 1962 and assisted Winter Algernon Crawford, 1910-1993, Barbados Trade Minister, at the Independent Conference in London during June and July 1966. Motley's uncle, also named Ernest Dayton Motley, 1931-2008, a refuse disposal officer, who lived in Great Britain for 18 years. He became the political leader of the short-lived Christian Social Democratic Party, CSD, created in March 1975. Her father, Elliot Dayton Motley, the 26th of November 1939, was also a barrister who sat in the House of Assembly, albeit for a relatively short time, before vacating the seat to become Consul General in New York. He was educated at Eagle Hall School, Harrison College, Barbados, and Middle Temple, London, once served as Bermuda's Attorney General, and sits on Belize's Court of Appeal. He married Maya's mother Santa Amor Tappan in December 1964, just 3 years after being called to the bar, and was elected to represent Bridgetown, Barbados. In May 1969, it has been suggested Prime Minister at the time, Errol Barrow, used his parliamentary majority to abolishing local government altogether, and therefore undermine Elliot Motley's strength in the political arena. Career. Motley first entered Barbadian politics in 1991 when running on a Barbados Labour Party (BLP) ticket, she lost the election race in St. Michael North East between herself and the late Leroy Brathwaite, a defeat of fewer than 200 votes. Between 1991 and 1994, she was one of two opposition senators in the Upper House, where she was Shadow Minister of Culture and Community Development. During that time, she also served on numerous parliamentary joint select committees on areas ranging from predial larceny and domestic violence. In September 1994, Motley became one of the youngest Barbadians ever to be assigned a ministerial portfolio. At age 29, she was appointed to the Ministry of Education, Youth Affairs and Culture. During her tenure, she co-authored the white paper on education titled Each Child Matters, that draws the link between better education and job fulfillment. She was elected General Secretary of the Barbados Labour Party 2 years later. In that same year and again the following year, 1997, she served as chairman of the CARICOM Standing Committee of Ministers of Education. Motley was appointed Attorney General and Minister of Home Affairs in August 2001 and is the first female in Barbados to hold this position. She is also the youngest ever Queen's Counsel in Barbados. In addition to being a member of the Privy Council of Barbados, she was leader of the House and a member of the National Security Council and the Barbados Defence Board. During her tenure as Attorney General, Ms. Motley appeared before the Judicial Committee of the Privy Council in a constitutional capital punishment matter, one of the last matters coming from Barbados to be heard before that body. Besides, she was the agent for Barbados in the international maritime arbitration between Barbados and Trinidad and Tobago under the United Nations Law of the Sea Convention. Motley is credited with being the visionary behind the Education Sector Enhancement Program, popularly known as EduTech, which aims to increase the number of young people contributing to the island's sustainable social and economic development. This revolutionary program involves the widespread use of information and communication technologies to assist in improving the quality of teaching and learning process. In youth affairs, Motley directed the establishment of the Youth Entrepreneurship Scheme and a national youth development program. 2 years later, Motley was to serve as Barbados's second female Deputy Prime Minister and Chairman of the Social Council of Barbados, and the Deputy Chairman of Barbados Economic Council, a position she held until 2008, and allowing her extended responsibilities, including the chairmanship of several key cabinet subcommittees, notably telecommunications reform, and one oversight of the administrative and legislative initiatives to prepare Barbados for the advent of the Caribbean single market and economy. Under Prime Minister Owen Seymour Arthur's BLP administration in February 2006, a government reshuffle resulted in Motley becoming Minister of Economic Affairs and Development, post she also held until 2008, where her responsibilities put her in charge of key economic agencies in the country. Opposition Leader. Following the Barbados Labour Party's defeat in the election held on the 15th of January 2008, and Prime Minister Owen Arthur's laying down the mantle as party leader, she was chosen as BLP party leader on the 19th of January 2008. She is the first woman to lead the party, as well as the country's first female opposition leader. Maya Motley was sworn in as opposition leader on the 7th of February 2008. On the 18th of October 2010, Motley's appointment as leader of the opposition was revoked following a shift in support of 5 of her parliamentary colleagues to former Prime Minister Owen Arthur, who assumed the leadership position that same day. Following a second election defeat on the 21st of February 2013, Motley was again selected as leader of the opposition. Community involvement. At the community level, Ms. Motley founded the annual Lime Pelican Semi-Pro Football Challenge in 2011 and is the patron of the Linden Grove Foundation, a non-profit organisation dedicated to community causes. Prime Minister. On the 24th of May 2018, Motley successfully led the BLP to a 30-0 victory over the Freundel-Stewart-led Democratic Labour Party. She was sworn in as Barbados' 8th Prime Minister on the 25th of May 2018. She is the first woman to hold the post. She is currently also the Minister of Finance, Economic Affairs, and Investment. I am Alison Goodness with today's Did You Know?
Yes, Did You Know is brought to you courtesy of Slowly Jamaica, uniquely Caribbean. And this morning our special guest is none other than Miss Cynthia Ellis-Topsey. Morning.
Good morning.
How you
Good
doing?
morning. I'm very well. It's cool and crispy here in Belize.
Okay. I want to give me just
Nice.
let me officially introduce you, and let me ask Alison to go ahead and introduce you officially. Take it away, Alison.
Cynthia Ellis-Topsey is a community advocate who works to promote sustainable development by building on the achievements of previous generations for future generations. Much of Ms. Ellis-Topsey's professional experience centered around placing women and families at the center of sustainable development. She began her career working in Kingston, Jamaica, where she trained in project management and development with the United States Agency for International Development and served in the Office of the Prime Minister as an advisor on women's issues and women in development. Ms. Ellis-Topsey went on to join the United Nations as a representative of Belize, where she worked to develop the first 5-year National Development Plan for Belize. In the 90s, Ms. Ellis-Topsey served as a Deputy Program Manager for Women, Youth, and Community Development with the Caribbean Community in Guyana, and later, in 2005, she continued to work with CARICOM as a consultant at the Regional Forum on Youth, Crime and Violence. She furthered her international engagement as the Board Director for Outreach for Latin America and the Caribbean at the Western New York Peace Center in Buffalo. From 2010 until 2019, Ms. Ellis-Topsey remained involved with the United Nations as a facilitator at the Annual Commission on the Status of Women in New York. In addition to her international accomplishments, Cynthia Ellis-Topsey has also done extensive work within Belize, particularly as an activist for both women and the Garifuna indigenous community. In 1985, she was a founder, and subsequently a director, of the Belize Rural Women's Association, which focused on the economic empowerment of women in Belize to promote sustainable development. In 2018, she served as a consultant for the Belize Women's Department in the Ministry of Human Development, providing leadership and mentoring workshops to women throughout Belize. She also advocated for the Garifuna community as a consultant at the Central American Garifuna Strategic Planning Workshop on Agricultural Development. Most recently, Cynthia Ellis-Topsey's activism has led her to her current position as a consultant on the Alternative to Violence Collaborative Project, a partnership between multiple universities and organizations, which seeks to provide conflict training and find solutions to violence in Belize. She has also remained involved with the El Pilar 4 Pillars project with Dr. Annabelle Ford to study cultural preservation and support conservation of the El Pilar Archaeological Preserve through utilizing traditional mine conservation methods. Ms. Ellis-Topsey is also currently working on a memoir recounting her life's accomplishments and the personal adversity she faced to get there. She hopes that this memoir will serve as an example and an inspiration for future Indigenous women leader. I am Alison Comishing, introducing Miss Cynthia Ellis-Topsey to the Real Stuff podcast.
Welcome once again, Miss Topsey. Welcome.
Wow.
Let me just add something, Franco.
Go ahead.
Over the years, Cynthia worked with the youth, was very involved, and she was the champion of the Duke of Edinburgh Award for Belize, part of the regional project, the regional Edinburgh project, that she worked with. And she worked with the regional director, Mr. David Clark, who is based in Jamaica. So that's a very short, long resume, powerful resume. So,
Okay.
You're going to tell us this morning, firstly, about the Garafunas, explain, origins and whatever, because I don't think everybody knows about the Garifuna or knows enough about the Garifuna. And how did you get to Belize and all of that stuff, and what is happening today?
Right. I am, first of all, very honored to be on your program. It's a privilege. And I want to introduce myself as a mother of 5 children and 17 grandchildren and counting. And that's the most important credential for me. I am Garifuna. And our people are all over the Caribbean and all over the world. And specifically for Belize, there are 2 versions of our history. And the version that you often hear about is that people who were enslaved were brought to the Caribbean. And some of these people who were brought to the island of St. Vincent, this was in the 1600s, escaped, and they mixed with the Carib Indians who were in St. Vincent. The original people, the people who were there before Columbus and the Europeans came. And so we were called the Black Caribs. The Carib took care of us, and so we mixed with the indigenous blood and African. The other version of the story, which is the one I tend to gravitate to a lot, is that there were explorers here in the Caribbean long before the Europeans came. So the Garifuna came from the Mandingo and the Igbo and all these adventurers, explorers, traders directly from Africa into the Americas. And so our people refused to succumb to enslavement, and we were called a warlike people. And that's according to the first version history. And because the Europeans had a hard time suppressing the Garifuna people, exactly what was done in Haiti was also done in St. Vincent, where our leader, Chatouillet, was invited to have a treaty or an agreement with the Europeans where they would come to some settlement of the dispute. In the process, Chatouillet was killed. And once Chatouillet was killed, then the people scattered and we were able to be controlled in a better way by the Europeans. And some agreement came about where those Garifuna people who didn't want to succumb to European rules were invited to leave to leave St. Vincent. And those who didn't want to leave stayed behind because they were going to live with the status quo. So a group of us were put on a boat and with the promise of food and water enough to travel to the coastline of Central America.
Okay.
And half of our people died. That is true. So when we speak about St. Vincent, we call ourselves not Black Caribs, we call ourselves Garifuna. That's the name we give ourselves. Gari refers to cassava, and Funa speaks about never forget. So we came to the mainland of Central America because the promise was not kept. So half our people died. And we settled on the coastline of Nicaragua, Honduras, Guatemala. And while Belize was settled by the British, we asked our ancestors from Guatemala for permission to settle in Belize, which is the only English-speaking country in the Caribbean. And we were given permission to settle. When I say we, there are others remaining in the other countries. And we were allowed to settle in the south, in what was called Carib Reserve. And when we arrived in Belize, there were people here before us, before the Europeans, the Mayans. And what the Europeans did, the British in particular, is keep us in enclaves, you know? So we were not allowed to move out of that geographic area without the permission of the British. So, I'll stop for a minute there. That's a little background. So for us, it's not a physical relationship, it's a spiritual one. So we are still in Yurume, we are still in the place of our origin. We tell our story and we write our own history through oral tradition. And we refer to St. Vincent as Yurume. That's our homeland, a state of being. So we don't see ourselves in the context of physical boundaries and borders.
So the what you call it again? Garifuna.
Garifuna.
Yeah,
Garifuna. Garifuna.
They were the same Caribs, right?
Yes, we are line. We have two main blood running through our veins. And that is the blood of the original indigenous people and the African.
Okay.
So the indigenous people, the original, are all over South, Central, all over the Caribbean. And so we are aligned with the original people and also African.
Okay. So it's in the blood.
Power in the blood. So the United Nations, UNESCO, made a declaration I think it was in 2000 anyway, that they cannot understand how it is that as a people we have maintained our language, our customs, our culture, what they call the intangibles, in the midst of all this suffering and adversity. We still have our language. So they declared us a masterpiece culture for the world. That's a UNESCO declaration.
Okay. Masterpiece culture.
That's right. So, yeah. So we speak our language. We actually, it's very, as you can say, very deep. For me, I don't often talk about it. So I thank you for this opportunity because it goes to the depths of our soul, my soul, you know? And it shows me the connectivity of people in the world because what happened was that the Europeans didn't want us to mix with the enslaved because when we arrived in Belize, that would have been like in the 1700s, late 1700s. Slavery was in existence, and they feared that if we mixed with the slaves, that would be a problem for their management of the resources, you know? So, cause we were a free people, and so we were only allowed to go like into what is now the city. We had to carry a passbook.
Okay.
And we could not be on the streets after certain hours, you know, like how you have apartheid. And so we carried these passbooks. And if we had to make sure that we left the area before dark, it's like, you know, like curfew and that sort of thing. Martial law type of situation.
Yeah.
What is also interesting, though, is that the church saw the importance of Garifuna people and our ability to navigate with other people. We get on with a lot of people. We learn to assess whatever situation that we are in, and we learn the languages of the people and so on. And so the Catholic Church saw the usefulness of the Garifuna skills. And then we were the ones who were sent into the deep hinterlands of Belize, and we opened schools in the country of Belize, the rural communities. So there's a book that is called Educate the Nation, because we are the ones who they mentored into setting up schools in all these rural communities throughout the country of Belize. And the other thing that we have done is that we look at education in two ways. We look at education in terms of the structure and the formal one that comes from the dominant culture. And then we have our own education, which is that we teach ourselves at home. Everything from you are born to when you're an elder is shared. And so we have always been able to maintain the knowledge of who we are as a people and be in alignment with the existing structures. So we were able to get the government to give us a national holiday, which is the 19th of November, where we have a reenactment of our arrival to Belize. We reenact it, and the entire country celebrates our presence. And we've been doing this for over 30 plus years.
Hold a minute there, Miss Cynthia. Hold a minute there. Flavius, I'm gonna bring you in here. Cause now you see,
Yeah.
yesterday we heard that October the 10th is a national holiday also
In Suriname,
in
for the
Suriname for
Maroons.
the Maroons.
One, yes, absolutely.
And now
Absolutely.
we are getting another date in November that is also a national holiday in Belize. What
That's
about
correct.
The
Jamaica?
19th.
What about Jamaica?
So we have to.
So we
Yeah,
have to
we are.
press it now.
We
That's
are.
a
It's a
good
Maroon.
point.
Yep. There has
That's
to
a
be
good point.
The
That's a
government
good
needs
point.
to step up.
there has to be
Yeah.
a
That's a
national
good
holiday.
point.
Remember, this was mentioned to us months ago on the program, you know.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
And the person had mentioned that there should also be a day of teaching Maroon culture. You understand? In
Exactly.
Jamaica. So
Exactly.
this is something we have to
Exactly.
advocate for. You know?
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
The network of indigenous people. In fact, the network of people knowledge and awareness of self is very powerful, you know. I was sharing with Flavius that I was invited to Nova Scotia some years ago, and I didn't want to go because, well, you know, the cold and other things.
In Halifax,
And then when
right?
I became
Halifax,
yes,
Canada. Yes, that's a cold place. Yep.
when I became aware that Maroons were taken there and the history is somewhat similar, I said, okay then. And I went there and I looked for the Maroon people there in Halifax,
Yeah.
and it was so deep because they invited me to a spiritual like prayers church, you know, and what touched me was that in the middle of the ceremony, they did something that we do, which is called the Abe Mahani. Abe Mahani is like I take my little finger, hook to yours, and it's like we are all connected no matter how small. It's like when the woman who wanted to be healed knew that if she just touched the hem of the garment of Jesus, she would be healed. It's like that. And they did the motion just like how we do, how the Garifuna do. It's like going back into the womb of the earth and into the essence of God. That's how they did that motion. And even though they didn't speak the language that we speak, everything was very similar to who and what we are. It was so powerful.
So you take the little finger to connect to the next to the other person, little finger.
Yes.
We used to do something like that, you know, where we used to bet, like I said, bet you, and you do that little finger giant.
Okay.
Yeah. So
yes. But everybody connected like a circle, like I am you and you are me, and we are connected, and we call that Garifuna Duo. Garifuna Duo. It's like being at oneness. Garifuna Duo. We are at one.
Oh, okay.
You are for me. What happened to you concerns me. What happened to me concerns you. It's a spin off. Yes,
powerful,
it is.
Very
and
powerful.
we have been able to, like what the African American Harriet Tubman does, the Underground Railroad. That's I think one of the strengths of the Garifuna people, to be who we are in the midst of everything. So, like for example, even though we were used by the Catholic Church to go all over the country, we use Our Father, we align it with the Abe Mahani. So we don't say the Our Father like Our Father who art in heaven. We reenact it like how we in our culture experience it. And we do it like we go back into we do the same actions. Like if I would say for you the Our Father, you say in Garifuna wa gushi bungio, so that God is not confused with the ordinary father, you know? So I will say Wagoshi Bungiyu Lida Sungfula. So Our Father who is in heaven, for the Garifuna will say in every situation, in every condition, in every state of beingness. And we don't say it, we sing it because it is a total surrender of body, mind, and soul. It's a very powerful prayer. And in the connectivity, we don't disconnect or isolate anyone. We invite others to be a part of who we are because we have no fear, because we have knowledge of who we are.
True. Let me
Power,
ask.
there's a lot of power.
Okay, go ahead, Felix.
Go on.
Yeah, I could. You want me to sing a little bit? I'll sing a little bit of the song for you, a little bit of the song, because most people know the Our Father, right? Just imagine, Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name.
Go
Thy
ahead and
kingdom come. Okay. Wagushi bungyu lida sung fula. You belong away awo. Ajugwala lebabu seru. Lida mua lida sung fula. Lida mua lida sung fula. So I'll stop at that to say that each word to translate into English is like untranslatable. It's like our Father who art in heaven. Wagushi bungyo, our Father God, bungyo. Even when we say bungyo, even if we were to say wagushi, the ordinary Father, it's with a lot of respect and movement of the body. And depending on the age of the person, we would for my grandfather, we call him Baba. And whenever we spoke about Baba, or if we were in the presence of Baba, you kind of like bow your head with that respect. So like in the case of Wagushi Bungyu, our Father God, who art in heaven, we don't say like heaven. It's in every situation, every condition, every state of being. You beloved, our Father, give us this day our daily bread. Give us everything that we need to become. And then here on earth, lida mua, lida sungfulas. In every place, in every situation, in every condition, in every state of beingness, oneness, in connection, in connectivity, in surrender. You see how many words?
I'm following.
So many words. Yes, so that's how we are, and we are a very welcoming, loving, inviting people, no?
I want to know something about the El Pilar, the Four Pillars project. Talk to me about that Four Pillars project.
That's interesting because the thing is that being Garifuna, I was delivered by a Mayan midwife because the Garifuna, we lived all over the country. And the interesting thing about us too is that in our sense of ourselves and relationships, we don't see ourselves across the boundaries or borders. So, for example, my father was born in Honduras, and a lot of my relatives are in Guatemala and all over the Central America. So those are my relatives, those are my people. So having been delivered by a Mayan midwife, the Mayan are the original people who were here before the Europeans came. And we have Mayans in the north, who we call Yucatec Maya, close to Mexico, the north of Belize. And then the south and the west, Mopan Maya. Then they have Quechua, and they speak different languages and so on and so forth. But in terms of El Pilar, that's an interesting experience. In a few days, I will be celebrating the life of my ancestral husband. My husband, as you say in other cultures, he died 25 years. This will make 25 years. and he was an archaeologist. He was the head of archaeology for the country of Belize. And it's not until recently I discovered that you have few black archaeologists. I didn't think about it. Anyway,
Wow.
he was responsible for hundreds of archaeological sites in the country. And my goodness, hundreds of them, over like 600. And so I traveled with him all over the country. And after he died, after he transitioned, maybe like 10 years later, I decided, you know what? I need to celebrate and understand more deeply what his contribution was to Belize. And at that time, I was thinking specifically for the legacy of my children and grandchildren. But then I was thinking, how will I do this? Because he created something called a symposium, you know?
Okay.
And so I said, well, let me go to the symposium and ask the archaeologists. It took me a while to get to that because when I would walk into the room, none of the archaeologists in the room looked like me and you. So it was like I had to adjust to that reality that I hadn't even thought about. then I remember a name that he used to call in our home, and the name was Dr. Annabelle Ford. And the reason why I remembered her because he would always speak about how she tried to link back the research to the people, the community.
Yeah.
Because you have to understand that when these excavations are done, most 90% of our treasures leave the country and they go to museums in the United States accompanied by these archaeologists, you know? Anyway, so I went with the intention. Before that, I would walk through the symposium to give myself like the strength or the power to move forward. I'd walk with my children through the symposium, just walk in and walk out. I did that for years. And this particular year, I decided I wanted to go to another level of accountability because my children, after he died, we and him were invited, the children were invited to cut the ribbon for Belize's museum. Me and my children, the first museum in Belize. So I went looking for this lady, Dr. Annabelle Ford, and I went to her. I didn't know who she was, and I asked her if she knew where I could find Dr. Annabelle Ford. I didn't know she was the person I was looking for. We laugh at it now. And that's how I became aware of El Pilar. And she said, I hope so, and the rest is history. And what was incredible is that I, as a Belizean, was to discover that we have 2,500 acres of pristine rainforest.
Wow.
Which has 20 dominant plants that the Mayan cultivated, produced, and accessed over 2,000 years ago, like at the time of Christ. And I was like so amazed. I said, I'm going to follow you. And I followed her for over 10 years now.
Yeah. And
discovered that there's nothing poor about us because the wealth of the rainforest is so phenomenal. So I became involved in the project. I am the face. I am the only Belizean in this country that follows a researcher and archaeologist at that level in their work. Nobody else does it. And I was like so appalled at that fact that I called the media immediately and I asked them if they knew, and they didn't know. So they started following me and her to unveil these 4 pillars, which I am the one who came up with the 4 pillars, you know. The first pillar is the archaeological reserve itself, which holds all the knowledge and wealth of the site. It's called Archaeology Under the Canopy of the Rainforest.
Okay.
Most archaeological sites, most temples, what they call pyramids, are exposed. And when they expose it, it deteriorates. So what Dr. Ford did is to keep the rainforest intact so that it preserves the antiquity and the authenticity. That's what. The other pillar is like showcasing it like in a community cultural center so that the community has access to the information.
Sure.
The third pillar, which is the one I find most exciting, is the developing curriculum that integrates this knowledge for children and for young people, for schools, so that they can be a part. And the fourth pillar is the issue of what we call food sovereignty, not food security. Because food security suggests that you want to hold on to something that nobody, like it will not be taken away. Food sovereignty is more like an intentional declaration that we are productive, we are wealthy, we are healthy, and we are in command of the resources that we have.
Wow, that
So
is
that's where we are with that. And one of the things, go ahead. Sorry?
Can you repeat that?
Repeat what? Which aspect?
Food.
Oh, food. We shifted from...
Which part you want she repeat?
Just explaining the food sovereignty.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay. The food sovereignty, food security is an attitude which one with a country or individual or group wants to secure that you have food to eat, you know? And food sovereignty is an intentional declaration that you are part of what you eat and how you eat. And it's not about getting people to feed you from outside. And you see, like during this COVID time now, people are getting like food packages. And a lot of the food that we are given here for those who so-called don't have food is food that is unhealthy. In the food sovereignty movement, we recognize that if you know what the resources are that you have, I could take you through the streets of Belize, any part of this country, and show you food that we have, that if you only knew that what it is, then you would know that you have food all the time.
Okay.
So that's a part of the process. You don't have to import. We can feed ourselves. So we have everything that we need, everything. Everybody has some land, everybody has some yard. And even if you don't do, there's a way of planting and feeding yourself by getting pots and soil and planting in these pots and so on. Different approaches, no?
Yeah. So this L pillar, people can Google it and refine it, find all the information.
Yes. I can send you information. And what is very interesting is that people come from all over the world. People who don't look like me and you. When I said that, people from other cultures, European, United States, Canada, universities, and they come and they study. And the interesting thing about my relationship with Dr. Annabelle Ford is that I noticed that the researchers that would come here from the United States and Canada and Europe would get their doctorates and so on from doing the research here. And the people who are Maya, one of the things that came up was that the Maya had disappeared because these temples and monuments are there and they are not inhabited. And I'm sure that we can know now through the COVID experience how such a thing could happen. But anyway, through academia, they were speculating that the Maya disappeared. And like we indigenous people were horrified that these researchers would make such a declaration, which became like almost like truth, no?
Yeah.
And so in my engagement with this project, I said, no, we are right here. The Maya are right here. You know, we didn't go anywhere. And it is the fact that for researchers to come here, it's the Maya people who have to guide them and show them different things, especially in the rainforest. So I suggested to Dr. Ford that she could not have gotten her doctorate if she had not had these Mayan people giving her the information and guiding her through the rainforest. And she admitted that. And so I started calling some of the Maya healers doctor. I gave them a doctorate.
Okay.
And so we have one called Dr. Narciso Torres, who knows everything about the plants and so on, you know?
Yeah.
And I learned, one of the things I learned as Garifuna, I didn't hear it in my introduction, but I am what is called the champion of the Duke of Edinburgh Award for young people. It's with the royal family. And part of that, which I like, is international, is that we mentor young people to begin to have life skills and competence. So immediately I start to show how these kinds of skills and knowledge could be part of the award. So Dr. Torres and Dr. Annabelle are mentors in the Duke of Edinburgh Award for Belize. And it is located in Jamaica. Actually, our support came through the regional office in Jamaica with Mr. David Clark. And so I got a sense people will question and critique and say, what are you doing with the people who are the very ones who put us in this situation? And I said to them, just look at whose picture is on the money. Look at the money.
Yes.
Our money still has the Queen of England in it, you know, on it.
Exactly. I saw the money. I saw the money. Yeah, I saw that poster.
Yes. So with that fact, you might as well get yourself in position and positioning to be able to embrace in our national anthem of Belize says, nature has blessed us with wealth untold. So for me, for us, El Pilar is the wealth untold. So let us tell it.
That's true. That El Pilar, it's not on YouTube. I found one on Google already, but I was looking on YouTube to see if there was anything documented in a video.
Oh, there's a lot. There's a lot, and you see the importance of this.
The link, and then
the importance of this interview here is what I said to my ancestral husband years ago. We went to Trinidad, you know, and we were attending a UNESCO conference. And it came to me that very little is known about Belize and these richness that we have.
Absolutely.
So I suggested to them, you know what? Why don't we invite the University of the West Indies to have a Department of Archaeology and Anthropology, which would be based in Belize? Why don't we invite our Caribbean people to be a part of this? I don't mind people interested in visiting from all over the world.
True.
But to tell you the truth, I have never met one black archaeologist from the United States, Canada, nor Europe. And that makes me cherish who and what we are here in Belize, that we offer the region of the Caribbean.
That's true. That is true. I've never seen one either. A black archaeologist. I know you spend.
I am seeing a book here that you wrote an article in, Transforming Heritage Practice in the 21st Century.
Yes. Sorry, what's your question?
No, just can you tell us about the article?
Thank you.
The name of the book is very, enterprising, to say the least.
I thank you very much.
Practice in the 21st century.
That's correct. I thank you very much for that question, because how that came about, and this is the challenge I want to give to all our people in the diaspora, so called, and around the world, that once we understand how information gets out and how information is power and how change gets about, it's important, I went through an experience as a young person where I didn't know anything about civil rights going on in the United States. And when a student came and was telling us about what was going on, I decided I did not want to visit that country ever because I was not pleased, So a group of us young people, we had like a movement of awareness of self as people of African history and so on. And I found out that I did not go to the United States, to the universities there for many, 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 many years. I chose instead to go to the University of the West Indies and then to study in Europe. I studied in The Hague. And coming to the United States, I realized that a lot of policies, a lot of decisions, a lot of validation comes from these universities in the United States. So when I became aware of that, I decided, you know what? Let me find out how these universities work and what is the culture of these universities. And so I said to Dr. Ford, Dr. Annabelle, I said, you know what? I really want to understand how your culture works. And so she invited me to co-author an article, and it was very challenging for me because they had all kinds of guidelines on how things should be written. And I'm thankful that she accompanied me in this process, because first of all, to get into writing that article, they have a fee of $2,000 US, that you need to put up front to get into that process.
Pricey, very pricey.
Yes. So these are the things that, if you don't have those resources, like many of us will be ruled out of that. Anyway, since I have been published, this is the first time I have been published in that kind of academic setting, I have gotten so much feedback from around the world. And I'm like, wow, this is important, because it makes me feel like when I first went to Africa and Europe, crossing the Atlantic Ocean again, so we crossed the first time the other way,
Yes.
I was exposed to books written by African authors.
Mm-hmm.
And when I went to Africa, I met some of these authors, and it was an emotional experience for me because I'm like, wow, I felt so shortchanged that my education would have been so incomplete had I not had this experience. And this is kind of how I felt in doing this article, that, oh my goodness, I could be left out. We could be left out. When I say I am not just speaking about the I, an individual, Cynthia Ellis. I'm speaking about all of us who are not exposed to these kinds of mechanisms and opportunities, or those of us who, when we are exposed, hold it tight to ourselves and say, well, I work hard and I have arrived and I didn't just get here easy and I forget about the rest. So that's what that publication means for me, that I have matured into a place where once I couldn't be bothered, I never want to be bothered with going into the dominant culture So I am now in a place where, you know what? When I come in here, is a whole lot of people going to come along with me. Is a whole lot of people I'm going to inspire. Is a whole lot of doors I can open, not just for myself, my children, my family, my community, my Belize, my region, but the world.
True. Let me ask you a question, because I know you spent some time in Jamaica back in the 70s. You were working in the Prime Minister office, right?
Yes.
What was the experience like? And which
my goodness.
Which Prime Minister was it?
Michael Manley. It was beautiful. It was awesome. It was phenomenal. It was, oh my goodness. I got to Jamaica.
So much adjectives, huh?
Oh my goodness. I have my daughter was born in Jamaica.
All
I have
right.
a daughter, Jamaican. Right? Anyway, I got to Jamaica because Belize, I felt at the time, had no more to offer me. At the time when I felt that education meant getting a piece of paper in your hand, you know, going to the next level. And I want you to know that I was discriminated against because I had aligned myself with what was called the Black Power movement at the time. And then there were some young people who were, I would want to say, we were put on a white list. I'm not going to say blacklist. And we were not allowed to go to certain schools as a result, no?
Or even travel to certain places.
Yeah, that's right. You got it. So I decided, okay, where can I go? And I had my best friend was in Jamaica studying nursing. So at age 17, I took a bus and I flew from Merida, Mexico to Guatemala, to Jamaica. And I studied at the University of the West Indies. In the beginning, it was a very traumatic experience for me because as I opened my mouth, my classmates laughed at me. I guess because of my accent. I don't know why. They didn't know anything about Belize. And so it wasn't a very nice experience in the beginning. And as I shared with someone the other day, I decided to sit at the back of the class and be quiet for the whole time. And I got the top grades in the class. And that is how the students, I gained the respect of my colleagues. And to the point where we began to look at the conditions of nurses at the University Hospital of the West Indies. That was in the 70s. And I was called, all the nurses came to me. I don't know what they saw in me. I was age 18 by that time. And asked me what should be done about the working conditions, because we were working and studying. I said, well, I call everybody off the hospital, all the nurses. And I spoke to them. I told them, well, let's go on strike until our demands are met. And I organized this strike in the people country, your country. And the board of directors looked for me, this troublemaker, to ask what the demands were of the nurses. And I did represent the student nurses, and we got full support of the doctors and the staff nurses at the time. Anyway, long story short, I realized then that I needed some skills to be able to negotiate and communicate. And based on that, I found out that the university was where I needed to go. I had no matriculation. You needed O levels. You needed all kind of things, and I didn't have it. But that didn't stop me. I went to the vice chancellor, who was Roy Auger at the time. And I said to him, if you give me the opportunity to come to this university so that I can go back and help my people and my country, I promise you it will be a worthwhile investment. And that's how I got into UWI. No scholarship, nothing. And I thought I could have done the nursing and the studies at the same time. I thought I could do it, but you know what the hospital administration did? I call it punishment. They put me on the graveyard shift, 7 at night to 7 in the morning,
Yeah.
and I couldn't keep up. So I had to release the nursing, and I was almost finished. But the beauty of the thing is that I had good experience in Jamaica. I mean, I didn't have money to pay for school fees. Let's put it like this. I work and I studied. I got a job at the library, university library. And then there was this lady who used to clean the rooms that we stayed for nursing. And this lady said to me, I don't know, we met and she asked me how I was doing. She said, sweetheart, you can come and stay. I have a room in my house. You can come and stay and I'll give you a meal a day. And that lady did that for me.
Wow.
You hear? Yep. And that's how I got through my university career. I wanted to do medicine. I wanted to do law because I wanted to be equipped in a way that I could be independent and that I could be skilled not only to defend and take care of myself, but to take care of others with competence. So I couldn't get into med school. I couldn't even get into law school. But I bought all the books for the law program and I sat in all the classes, even though I wasn't registered.
Good one, that. That's a good move. Again.
Yeah, so that's like what you call Garifuna tenacity. And while I was at the library, I met Professor Brathwaite, the one who taught history. And when he became aware that I am Garifuna, every year he would invite me to teach his students. Every year, because he wanted them to know about Garifuna and who are Garifuna. And I am Garifuna, so I was able to do that.
Okay, okay.
But to the one with the Prime Minister, the work I was in, I come back to Belize first, then I went back and couldn't get a job, looking all around. One day, I applied for what was called, now this is going to bless you. They had something called the CUSO, Canadian University Services Overseas. It's like the Canadian version of the Peace Corps. However, they decided that instead of getting people from Canada to come, they would work with Caribbean people. And that's how I became a CUSO volunteer, you know? And so I was attached to the office of the Prime Minister. Through that program, I would have been like in my 20s. Yeah. And when I look back now, I'm like, wow. Because in that program, it was the first year of the Women Declaration for Women by the United Nations. And I represented Jamaica in raising funds for programs and projects. I went to the United States. I don't know how I did it, but anyway, I went to raise funds, write projects for the women of Jamaica and supporting people like the Sistering Theatre Collective, help them to organize, to get awards from the Organization of the American States, connected with Beverly Manley at that time with the women's arm. Oh my goodness, I just learned so much.
Wow.
I am looking at a magazine now, Cynthia. The magazine name is Business.
Yes.
And it is saying 6 most powerful women in Belize.
Yes. That was in 1990 something, yes.
And the article says Cynthia Ellis is a force to be reckoned with. Can you give us a little insight on that?
Yeah, I am.
I'm pretty sure you are the most powerful woman in Belize now. Tell me about that journey.
Well, I'm very humbled. Actually, after my husband had died, that was in 1995. I was with CARICOM from 1994 to 1995. I was responsible for 16 countries in the Caribbean, like a diplomatic position, in the area of women, youth, community organizing, preparing governments on policies for the region, you know? And that's when I had met Mr. David Clark, who was at the time regional director for the Duke of Edinburgh Award. And he and I agreed that we would collaborate and work with each other in terms of guiding leadership for the region, you know?
Yeah.
Because the experience in Guyana was very intense in that I would listen to governments, head of governments make plans for communities and realize that there were some gaps. And I would listen and I learned how policies are being made. And in fact, it would be interesting for you to know that I got the job because I was organizing with young people in Belize, especially young men who were being victimized, in my opinion, and people concerning the lack of knowledge about the law. So I started to organize information and support for these young men. After I went to some attorneys to ask them to help and realized that they didn't have that interest, I decided, because my sister is an attorney, one of my sisters is an attorney, and she would come home with these horrific stories about the brutality that men and young men were experiencing. And I would ask her, so what are you going to do about it? And so anyway, long story short, I developed this program, which was legal literacy and competence for people who haven't studied law. And it was very successful. And somebody heard about it and invited me to this first conference of lawyers and legal people in the Caribbean. And I was I was the only non-legal person there. I was invited to give a presentation about this work I had been doing here in Belize. And when I finished, presenting, the Deputy Secretary General for CARICOM came to me and said, you know, you have the job. I said, which job? I didn't apply for any job. And so he told me that this job was, you know, I tell you, I just, the man tells me the story afterwards, that like I laughed at him. I said, no, I didn't laugh. It wasn't you I was laughing. I was laughing at the idea because my personality, my spirit is so creative. In fact, I think I remember saying to him, I would not take that job because I would not allow anything to crush the authenticity of my spirit, you know?
True.
I said it no for months, and then it was my mother, when I mentioned to her, like, Ma, by the way, these people just keep bothering me about this job. And Mama said, well, perhaps God is calling you to do something different. And that was the change bit.
Okay.
So I went because of my mother. I mean, my own choice too. And then, so having had that experience and coming back to Belize, because now I had gotten the sense of how decisions are made and how people run governments and what have you. And I had been in a position where I was preparing delegations, preparing governments, preparing ministers globally, you know. I prepared delegations to go to Beijing, China, and so on and so on. So coming back home, I said, let me be quiet for a little bit. Let me mind my business. And I decided to go back into the heart of the Garifuna community. I went to live people's, minding my business. And then one day, one of the leaders in the community approached me and he said, we'd like you to run the office. I said, no, I'm not interested. I said, I don't even belong to your party. He said, no, we'll take care of that. Okay, so I didn't do it because of alignment to any political party. I did it because there was this confidence in me, and I felt that I could inspire young people and young women by taking on this position. And so I ran as mayoral candidate and won the convention. And at the same time, another colleague came and he said, why don't you run as for the deputy party leader for this United Democratic Party?
Wow.
I said, okay, why not? I'm in it already. You know?
They pull you in.
And yes,
Yeah.
I mean, I agreed. It made sense because I would be the first Garifuna ever.
Yeah.
The first Garifuna woman, rather. The first Garifuna woman. And the first woman for the country to do that.
Okay.
And coming from the south of the country, from our people who were not recognized to this day in that level, was very powerful. And so I said yes. And for me, it was not even about winning or losing. It was positioning.
Yeah.
So when I ran as the mayoral candidate, that time the now opposition party was in power, and they sent their whole entourage to campaign against me. It was an amazing experience, you know. I did not win the election, but I didn't care. For me, the point was already made.
Yeah, you position yourself.
That's it.
Yes.
And for the deputy party leader now, I was the only woman, and I never forget at the convention all these young women who came around me and they said, "Oh, we want to be like you. You inspired." And for me, that was it. That was enough. You know, that was enough. And I remember when the results came out, it was as if I had won. I didn't won. I ran against another person who won. And the now Prime Minister of Belize, well, let me put it like this. The government dissolved yesterday, so I don't know what to say. But anyway, they're going to have elections in a few days, no? Anyway, the now Prime Minister, made a declaration to the whole convention of great respect and acclamation, you know? Everybody got the point, and that was enough for me. And so it's in that context that this declaration was made that I, well, at that time, one of the 6 most powerful women in the country at that time. And the other thing, in terms of a force to be reckoned with, most of the people who have been in government since independence of Belize were with me when we fought on some very serious issues relating to the sovereignty of the country and a so-called claim of Guatemala to Belize. And I was part of the key mobilization of the country to address the issue with the British who were running our country at the time. Our borders were closed, we had martial law, so on and so forth. And we had to do like an underground communication because of state of emergency. And many of the people who are in government know that. They know that because, you know, I mentored them. Like I was leading the ship, and very few people would know that now because that story hasn't been told. And when our borders were open, I went to Trinidad for a meeting, and that was the first time that the people of the Caribbean were going to get to know that this was going on in Belize. And you have to understand that we are close to Guatemala, and people like us, there's a mural on the border of Guatemala that shows like the execution of people like us who work with communities by the status quo. And what happened is that I was I had been a consultant in the region before Bishop, before the invasion of Grenada. I was also involved after that invasion. There was a woman by the name of Ira Hector from Antigua who started a network called Women for Caribbean Liberation. And I had counseled her and I had said to her, please don't do it like that. Because from the time I was 12, when I decided I was going to be a leader for my country, I decided I would not be incarcerated and that I would not be killed.
True.
So I told Ira that there's a way to get your point across without compromising yourself. And I said the same thing to Maurice Bishop before he was murdered. And both of them, before they died, told me that they understood what I was saying when they came to Belize. And Ira Hector, after she left visiting me in Belize, I took her around and showed her how we were organizing. Ira was murdered and buried in a shallow grave in Antigua.
Yeah, I heard about that.
So these are the experiences, you know, that I guess make people say that I am powerful. Power is in humility.
You're wise too. You're very wise as well.
You are now planning a women's conference for the Garifuna Nation. Could you tell us about that?
Yes. I'm the convener. And one of the things I wanted to say about power, you see how I have my father was shifting my decision. Similarly, my father, my ancestors. One of the things about the Garifuna is our spirituality. And I'm always very careful how I use that word because people have different interpretations of that. However, it is that knowingness within myself, ourselves, that gives thanks. So the Garifuna Nation, I am directed or asked to lead the move of women affairs, women and family, and international affairs with the United Nations on behalf of the Garifuna Nation. The Garifuna Nation is a way of looking at Garifuna all over the world, wherever we are, as one nation. So we declare ourselves as one nation without confinement to geographic borders and boundaries, although we acknowledge them. So women are the bedrock of our culture and the source of our humanity. So we're having this conference November the 20th and the 21st. And it's open to all people, men, women, children who want to celebrate and acknowledge the contributions of women, Garifuna women in the area of land. We have a special relationship with land. Land is not just physical, it's a very deep connection for our awareness of who we are in the area of health and wellness, in the area of economics, and it's going to be held virtually and physically. So that makes a lot of possibilities for who can participate. It's going to be held in a village called Hopkins with the support of women, the Sandy Beach Women's Cooperative, first women's cooperative in the history of Belize. And of course, now we have been encroached by many other resorts right now. And one of the blessings about COVID, yes, it's interesting that I look at COVID not only as a major challenge, but as a blessing that gives the possibility of widening our world, widening the way in which we do things, spending time with each other, cherishing ourselves, our ancestry, because our borders are closed. So we used to get a lot of imported food. We used to import like 70% of the food from Mexico, Guatemala, and other parts of the world. So now those borders are closed, food sovereignty becomes an issue. So one of the important topics that we have to feed ourselves, So that's what's going to be so exciting about this gathering, which is not just an event, it's a launching of a process and a movement where we do things differently and tell the story differently then. So now we are inviting people to share, men, women, young people, stories and projects, business, dreams, and how those can be matched like a marketplace of possibilities as of now leading up to the event and beyond.
True. Very good. So the virtual part of it, how can we link up to it? Or anyone link up to it?
Oh, wow. Yes, well, that is where I'm asking for help, and my colleague on this show and others are offering those technicalities in a few days and a few minutes.
Okay.
So I see this as an opportunity to build capacity, at all levels, and we welcome especially people who don't live in the country, because you have access to a lot of expertise and know-how that we need, especially when it comes to the technology, So we invite the participation. There's this African woman, I can't remember her name right now, but anyway, she is the one who really confirmed and affirmed for me that the people of the diaspora are so important, because you are aware of how certain systems work and how to navigate these systems in taking us to another level in terms of holding ourselves and others accountable. So that, for example, one of the issues I will look at, not complaining or condemning colleagues who don't look like us, who come to our countries, but they have tended to organize businesses and programs in a way that need to be more inclusive of our people in terms of management. So like how I was able to have a conversation with my colleague about accrediting the Mayan people who are already informed about many of the archaeological sites. Similarly, we invite taking hold of technology, being more comfortable in communicating with each other around the world and getting what it takes to make that happen. Looking at food, where can we connect with the fact that the Garifuna, we make cassava bread and you all do bami and different things like that. Could we have a collective? Could we have a coalition? Could we look at ways of trading and movement of supplying food? Could we look at how we prepare the food that we eat in a healthy manner, that we stop speaking about diabetes, hypertension, and all these different things that are killing off our people?
True. Before we go, let me ask you just one quick question. How is your memoir coming along?
It's doing very well. I finished the first draft, and it's going very well. So I have pulled out some themes, and thank you for asking, because what's happening with me now is that I'm very serious about this invitation to connect and to collaborate with others, because I don't see the memoir as an entity, like Cynthia Ellis wrote this book. I see it as a dynamic process, a dynamic experience which I'd want to see that it could be like a opportunity for discussion, lessons learned, because like there's no written. What I just shared with you is not written anywhere in the country of Belize in terms of movement and lessons learned. So I see this as an interactive opportunity to maybe have podcasts, webinars, seminars, the same thing that these people from universities come to my country, oh my goodness, and they conduct like cultural immersion and studies, and then the students get degrees. I would want to see the same thing and the memoir to be used as a reference, one of the many references for that.
True. We're going to close, but we're going to ask you to, give a final word, a final statement before we wanted to close out the show with us today. So we're going to ask for your final statement.
Yeah. Well, that we are all connected, and I really love Jamaica, and one love. People like Bob Marley have been my inspiration in terms of just being who he is. I want to be who I am, authentic, with no mask. Well, I mean, yes, the mask for COVID, but not the other mask,
True.
So to be there for one another, to love one another, to really take ourselves and our people to another level of magnificence.
Okay. You're still there with us, Cynthia?
Yes, I'm still here. I'm still here. I'm complete.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Flavius, your time now. Flavius.
Well, I'm very happy that you could have joined us today.
Thank you.
I'm delighted the knowledge that you share with us. I know a lot of us didn't have no idea, about what you just told us. And I think this is a starting point.
I am honored.
I also know that by speaking to you, there's a lot more that you have to tell us. So we will be inviting you back.
Thank you. I'll be delighted.
That sounds more like a panel discussion.
Yes. Yes. It is beautiful. Thank you.
Okay. So,
okay.
It's breaking up. So, with that, we thank you again, Cynthia.
Thank you too.
Ellis-Topsey,
beautiful. Thank you.
For
you are done.
Taking time out and being here with us.
Wonderful. Let me just can I say that the Ellis-Topsey is the name that will change. My name that I'm declaring is Lubafu Isieni. The Garifuna name called Powerful Lubafu Isieni.
Lubafu.
Which means powerful love spirit. Lubafu Isieni. Yes.
Isfieni. All right. So we're going to declare you Lubafu Isfieni.
Yes, thank you.
Officially right here on this podcast.
On the real stuff. Yes.
So there we go.
Thank you.
Viewers,
have a beautiful day.
Yes, you too. Viewers, you have heard from another powerful woman this morning. And we thank all of you in the chat room who participate, who give your love, your shout out. And so we ask you to join us tomorrow when we have Cook and Curry. And in the Cook and Curry, it's going to be Mr. Errol Sinclair from Tapioca. coming back tomorrow. And on Friday, we have a gospel artist, Miss Glacia Robinson, who will be joining us to round off a week of some, we call it now, champion, woman, we call it woman in champion, or champion woman, who have joined us all week.
I must say, Franco, that we are going to continue with the powerful women for next week. But next week, Wednesday, we have Mrs. Bertia Parl from St. Lucia. She's the first and probably the only woman that was president of the Caribbean Hotel and Tourism Association.
So good to me. Sound good to me.
Bay Gardens Hotel in Cassis, St. Lucia. Very powerful Caribbean woman coming next week also.
Okay.
So like we're on a roll, with these powerful ladies.
So, as always, take care of yourself, your loved ones. Always remember, prayer do changes things regardless of what religion you belong to. You must pray and continue to pray. This is Franco.
And this is Flavius.
Wishing you
See you tomorrow.
a pleasant afternoon, evening, wherever you are, morning, until tomorrow. Tafina to take us out.
Well, unfortunately, this is it. Till next time.
What you say?
Bless.
No, I say before Tafina, remember the R&D. Respect each other and keep your discipline up. Now for
Well,
Tafina.
unfortunately, this is it. Till next time. Bless.
All you gotta do is just speak. One word is enough, and I'm no longer so rough. I forget what I was trying to say. I no longer do what I was gonna do, but you're no good for me. That's why me know I said me if it could flee. Me have to take away me say. Me have to take away me say. Me have to hide like a thief in the night. Me have to get out of sight. Me have to take away myself. I have to take away myself. I have to utilize I wings. Shorty, I clean her eyes. I said, yeah, I find you very hard to resist. But this relationship I'm gonna desist. But how can I face you when all I wanna do is just taste you? I know you think I play me, I play. But soon you're gonna see the light of day. Just relax, don't move an inch. I'll be gone in a pinch. May I feel take away myself. May I feel take away myself. May I feel I like a thief in the night. May I forget out of sight. May I feel take away myself. Take away myself. I have to utilize I wings. Shorty, I a clean berry.
Well, unfortunately, this is it. Till next time. Bless.
Through the door, take away ourselves.
Well, unfortunately, this is it. Till next time. Bless.
Take
Unfortunately, this is it. Till next time. Bless.